When Henri II was crowned as King of France, he offered Chenonceau as a gift to his 20 years older mistress, Diane de Poitiers, a legendary beauty. She was also entrusted with the crown jewels of France and appointed by Henri to Duchess of Valentinois. Contrary to contemporary custom, she seemed to have been ridiculed for keeping herself young and attractive for her much younger lover by using false teeth and false hair and much makeup. She claimed her beauty came from bathing in cold water every morning, not a usual thing to do in those days, then going riding and then returning to bed until midday. According to the legend, she bathed nude in the river Cher, alongside the kitchen, where boats with supplies moored, presumably when she was not present. Her appearance was frequently immortalized in art, often topless or nude, depicting a vibrant and attractive woman. Nowadays, scholars have doubt about the identity of some of these women. This lady in her bath, for instance, is recently dated about 1570, 4 years after Diane's death, and thus probably represents another royal favorite. Diane was a keen hunter and was often depicted as the Roman goddess of the hunt, Diana, whose symbol is the moon. Three interlaced crescents form the emblem of Diane de Poitiers, in a geographic way an impossible figure, in which the intriguing Borromean rings can be recognized, an arrangement of 3 semen circles. If you cut one of them off, the other 2 will fall apart. In physics, it is shown that 3 atoms can reach a new stable form of matter similar to the Borromean rings. Also, Henri II adopted the emblem of the 3 crescents. This one with the crown above is on a wall in the ballroom of the palace of Fontainebleau. In a room of Chenonceau, you can see a painting of Diane de Poitiers as the huntress Diana. It is painted at the castle when she was 57 years old. The artist is Francesco Primaticcio, an Italian Mannerist painter, architect and sculptor who spent most of his career in France. He was one of the leading artists of the Fontainebleau School, a group of Italian masters who were hired by King François I to embellish his palace at Fontainebleau. These Italians successfully adapted their own styles to the French taste and were assisted by French and Flemish artists. Together, they produced a distinctive style of Mannerism. In spite of the severe Catholic censorship of the representations of the nude body, strange erotic scenes were painted, usually cloaked as allegories or mythological motifs. Mannerism is notable for its artificial as opposed to naturalistic qualities. It makes itself known by elongated proportions, highly stylized poses, and lack of clear perspective. This painting, probably of Diane de Poitiers as the goddess Diana, is a typical example of the manneristic style of the Fontainebleau School. Perhaps these drawings of Diane de Poitiers depict her most accurately. The drawings are ascribed to chief court painter François Clouet, known for his portraits of the French royal family in the 16th century. His drawings have remarkable accuracy and, in the Renaissance tradition, evoke an apprehension for the character of the sitter in his portraits. His coloring is perhaps not specially remarkable, but in perfection of drawing he has hardly any equal. His masterpiece is considered to be the portrait of Elizabeth of Austria, married to Charles IX of France for 3.5 years until his death. This piece made an important impression on Claude Lévi-Strauss, French anthropologist. In particular, the lace ruff helped inspire his theory of the modèle réduit, or of works of art as simplifications and scale models of the realities they represent, in his book The Savage Mind. Diane became the second lady of Chenonceau. She was fervently attached to the chateau and its view along the river. In 1551, Diane started the construction of a beautiful garden at the north bank of the river Cher, buttressed from flooding by stone terraces and inspired by the symmetrical so-called Italian gardens of the royal castle of Blois and Amboise, designed by Pacello da Mercogliano. She oversaw the planting of flowers and fruit and vegetables which at that time were considered exotic, such as melons and artichokes. The castle belonged to the crown, and Diane would have to wait until 1555 and to resort to legal artifices and other subtle procedures to become its legitimate owner. The profits made through the cultivation of the estate and the confident knowledge that the castle was hers encouraged Diane to further embellish her property. In 1556, she asked the royal architect Philibert Delorme, who also worked in Fontainebleau and Tuileries, to construct a 5-arc bridge of 60 meters long and 6 meters wide over the Cher River, joining the chateau to its opposite bank. So the park at the south side of the river came within reach. Some prints are left showing the castle together with the bridge. However, the proportions in these prints seem not correct. According to this drawing, at the end of the bridge was a small building. the castle, the bathroom of Diane is dominated by her bed, which is believed to have an extraordinary effect on those who lay on it. In his book Along the Loire, Gustave Flaubert described his delight at seeing Diane de Poitiers' bed.
A canopy bed from the royal concubine, covered with damask. If it was mine, I would not resist lying down once in a while. To sleep in the bed of Diane de Poitiers, even empty, is much more exciting than sleeping in another bed with much more touchable realities. Imagine, if you are part of those who have imagination, the incredible historical and 16th century voluptuousness to put your head on the pillow and the mattress of the concubine of Henri II. Oh, how would I like to exchange all the women in the world against the mummy of Cleopatra.
Chenonceau was not the only castle Diane possessed. She also owned Château Chenonceau. It was a gift from the king and was specially built for her, partly on the foundations and cellar vaults of the former chateau at the center of the domains of Diane's deceased husband. This castle is regarded as the masterpiece of the earlier mentioned architect Philibert de Lorme. Of course, it was paid for out of the royal treasure. During the French Revolution and the years thereafter, it was destructed with the exception of one wing, which can still be visited today. In 1559, tragedy struck. In a tournament at Paris, King Henri had used it with great success all day, but his captain of the Scottish Guard, the young Gabriel, Comte de Montgomery, knocked him half out of the saddle. Henri insisted on riding against Montgomery again, despite reservations of his wife, Queen Catherine, concerning this last joust. He charged, sporting the black and white colours of Diane, who was sitting next to the Queen. The captain's lance shattered into the king's face. The king stumbled and fell from his horse. He lingered for 11 days before succumbing to his injuries. Before dying, the king absolved Gabriel of all fault. King Henri's son, François II, who was then 15 years old, became his successor. But perhaps more in reality, power passed from one lady, Diane de Poitiers, to another lady, Catherine de Medici. Diane returned the crown jewels to Catherine, but was nevertheless removed from court. Catherine forced her to leave Chenonceau under royal rules, but gave her the last prized chateau of Chaumont in exchange. In Chaumont, Catherine had entertained many occult astrologers there, among them Nostradamus, of whom she was one of the greatest admirers. When Diane arrived at Chaumont, she found signs of the occult, such as pentacles drawn on the floor, and she quickly withdrew to her exquisite Château Chenonceau and never set foot in Chaumont again. In the chapel of Château Chenonceau, with Diane's emblem, the crescent on top, you can still find her tomb.